I'm Christine Williamson, and this blog is my response to, or my thoughts on, going to see Macbeth at the Park Avenue Armory, which I did last Sunday. Exactly 1 week from now. Hey, yeah, pretty much exactly 1 week from now. Just glancing at the time. So, when I went to New York, I did not have a ticket. Fool that I am. But, well, I didn't find out that the show was there until like, well, a week, 2 weeks before it closed. Completely managed to miss that somehow. And of course by then it was already sold out. So it's like, okay, if I want to see this, I'm gonna have to go and I'm gonna have to wait in line. It's not like I haven't waited in line before. Did that in London and got to see a really awesome show because of it. Work there? Why shouldn't it work here? Hey. Okay, so it's New York. New York is a little sketchy. But hey, I've gone there before and come out alive. So I went. And I got up super early. What I thought was super early. 5 hours before the box office opened was not enough. That was day one. 2 performances worth of tickets, 5 hours was not enough. Of course, it was the last weekend, so I suppose. But anyway, next morning, I just want to state, before I get into this, how surreal that morning was. I mean, pretty much any time you get up with like 4 hours of sleep, or less, for multiple days in a row, everything takes on a sort of surreal quality. But this was even more surreal than that. 7 hours before the box office opens. I get there. I'm further up in line than I was before, but it's still reaching around the corner already. There are people camped out with mattresses. The day before there'd been like sleeping bags, but now there were mattresses, and I'm like, whoa. So I sit down with my blanket, try to go back to sleep, fail, utterly. Once I'm up, I'm up. It's just how it works, especially when I'm sitting up. A couple hours later, give up trying to sleep, do my memorizing for the day, almost done with Venus and Adonis. I am now, obviously, but by then I was almost done, and I was like, okay, finish memorizing Venus and Adonis. In line, waiting to see a Shakespeare show. Hardcore all the way. I did it at that the morning before as well. The surreal aspect, one, other than the sleep deprivation and getting there and realizing that, oh, I'm still pretty far back in the line, even though not as much as before. First surreal thing, the shelter. Because there's a homeless shelter underneath the Park Avenue Armory, which I didn't know until the day before. But the entrance of it is like right there. And so like the people start coming out of there, and they start wandering up and down, looking and talking to people and commenting on how outrageous some of the prices that people have paid for some of the tickets have been. And one of them comes over and stops in front of me, and she's wearing leopard print, which I'd been wearing the day before, and she's like, you were here yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, you look like you really want to see the show, as I'm sitting there with my Shakespeare complete works, memorizing, at that point I'm reciting Venus and Adonis, what I have currently memorized, which is like 3/4 of it, just going through it. Since, I mean, what else am I going to do waiting in line for 7 hours? There's only so much that I can do without getting incredibly bored. Boredom is my nemesis, therefore memorization. So, chat, back and forth a bit. It's like, yeah, I really want to. She's like, you're going to get to see this show. I know, you really want to see it. And I'm like looking at the line. I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of people back there. And she's like, no, you're going to see it. You're going to see it. And she goes and she starts talking to her friends and drifts off. And as I go back to my reciting, And because I really don't want to think about the possibility of not going to see it, because, I mean, I've committed so much time to waiting in line. But then, eventually, the box office opens, and we get up there, and the guy who came out the last morning, the previous morning, said, "All the tickets are gone, there are no more tickets, there are no more tickets, there are no more tickets, all the tickets are gone." He eventually comes out again, and is like, "All the tickets are gone, all the tickets are gone, there are no more tickets, there are no more tickets, all the tickets are gone." I mean, that's pretty, you know, pretty definitive. All the tickets are gone. There are no more tickets. So I'm like standing there, and I'm like, "Sorry, lady in the leopard print, I have failed you." And a bunch of us are standing around, and we're like, "What are we standing around here for?" And we're like, "We're wallowing in denial, that's what we're doing, wallowing in denial." And so we just standing there, and we chat, and they're pretty cool people. And as the day before, like, nobody's on the steps going into the building, because, like, they've been keeping people off the steps to the door when they would get crowded and clogged and whatnot. I mean, it's like this forbidden territory at the top of the steps that got made by this, keeping people down off of it. And then the second part of the surreality of the morning sort of kicks in. And the same thing that made me just wake up when I woke up and said, "No, leave that behind, leave that behind, leave that behind, stuff the blanket in the bag and just go, it's time to go." It's like, that thing just sort of like grabbed me. I mean, it's weird. This is the sort of feeling that I get when I walk into a room and I can just stand there watching people and then like walk out again, either the same door or through another door, and nobody notices that I'm there. And then they're like, "Where did you come from?" And I'm like, "Well, I went that way a while ago," or "I was there for like 5 minutes and then I left and now I've come back." But it's like that sort of feeling where it can just slip through. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just another aspect of sleep deprivation. But anyway, that sort of, grabbed me. And I just sort of like drifted out of this little conversation and up the steps. I was like, I didn't even go into the building yesterday because it was forbidden territory and all the tickets were gone, so there was no point. And I was going to have another opportunity. But I was like, I'm at least going to go into the building this time, even if they kick me out. So, and I went up the steps, just sort of drifted up there in the grips of this whatever it is. Head for the doors. As I'm like reaching towards the doors to open them, they open. And this man comes out. And as he comes out, going past me, whispers very softly so no one else can hear, in a very sort of surreal, conspiratorial manner, "There's one ticket left." And I'm like, and I just sort of like look in the doors, and I just keep drifting forward. And I'm like, I have no idea what the inside of this building looks like. How am I going to find the box office? All these things are going, this is like happening like lightning quickly through my brain as I'm sort of like, and I go in and I'm like, there's another set of doors, and I'm like, that looks more like a security station than a box office. I see nothing in here that looks like a box office, and I go through the other set of doors. And at the end of this short hallway with the security station, there's another person talking to a lady all dressed in white. It's a lady in a white gown. It was just beautiful picture there against all the dark woodwork. And as I drift through the doors, the person talking to her says, "The box office is to your right. That way." So I just, towards the box office. The lady in white is in front of me. I mean, the fact that the lady in white is in front of me, I mean, how can there not be anybody in front of me after people have been waiting so long, so many people to see this show? How can there not be anybody in between me and the box office, considering the length that I'm having to walk to get to it? with the lady in white in front of me, but still, hope springs eternal. I drift behind the lady in white towards the box office and get in line, and there are 3 stations. And there's someone at the middle station. And the lady in white gets out her cell phone and starts talking and drifts over to the other person. And despite other people having been walking away from the box office while we're going towards it, when I get to the third person, she's like, "We have 1 ticket left." I'm like, I made it all this distance with these 2 people in front of me, and there's still 1 ticket left. They didn't take it. And I was just like, "Mine, please." She told me how much it cost, and I was like, but still not even half what I paid to fly to London to see Coriolanus. So in that respect, it's like cheap. And then she was like, "Yeah, it's not a," because I mean, it wasn't a rush ticket. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been that expensive. And I was like, "But it said they were all sold out." And she was like, "Yeah, and this is actually a pretty good seat. It's in the 3rd row." And I'm like, we got the last ticket to the last performance of this show in the 3rd row, about 2/3 of the way down between the chapel and Stonehenge. So I had a really good view of Stonehenge. And I was like, "Yes, please, ticket. I have a ticket." I'd given up. Like, the second time the guy said that there were no tickets, I mean, that's pretty definitive. I said that before. And yet there I was with this ticket for the 3rd row. And I was so grateful. And I just drifted out, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got a ticket." And I was just like, don't cry until you've gotten out of the building past the people on the street." And I call up my sister, who wasn't able to come. She wasn't able to come because she was doing her summer job. She's alternating between New York and a New York internship and another summer job, and the weekend she's on the other one. And I called her up and was like, "Maggie, I got a ticket." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "It's not a rush ticket, it's in the 3rd row." And she's like, "Oh my God, I knew you could do it." I'm like, "I don't know how I did this." It was just, I love my life sometimes. My life baffles me and confounds me, and I love it. But so I got to see the show.